What are we doing? Time to do some painting. Evening. All right. We're just going to base coat some things real fast. Base coat these gloves so we can paint some leather and stuff and base coat the belt here. Yeah, we're gonna do the try and do the black leather, and we'll see if we get to the non-metallics. How's everyone doing this evening? It is indeed Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to anyone. Evening, Minimancer. Oops. So, right, just getting a nice black base coat on everything. The reason I didn't paint the fingers before is because I knew that I'd have to like get down in there with the black, and it's just easier to do the black first and then kind of go back and paint the fingers after. What's everybody been doing? What's everybody working on? Anything cool? Just make sure I get all underneath here. I want to make sure everything is nice and super black on the inside of the belt and everything. So that might require, flipping it upside down to see better. Right? Got to get all the way down in there. Still very close. to done on my Hair of the Moon and Mushroom Dwarf, but I didn't paint much this week. Gotta get them hours in, dude. Yeah, that could be tough, like just deciding how far to push a project, like when is done, you know? All right. So there's actually, I'm going to go ahead and just do this because, well, we'll talk about it more, but I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of black on the belt itself. And you'll see why later. But basically, the idea is that the arena, if they're at an arena, right, most of the arena is dark. Like they don't tend to put a lot of lights in the crowd. Most of the lights are in the room, right, or in the ring. So the horizontal reflections of the belt tend to be very dark because you're reflecting the crowd and the state, like the actual stadium seating. And most of that is just black. Okay. Afternoon, a Christian, and got access to your Art of 7 through 9 texture PDF. Thanks. Yeah, I heard it went out today. I hope it was interesting. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I thought the freehand stuff might be interesting. I know it technically the freehand it's not really texture in the literal sense, but I think it's very applicable to texture. Like it's very easy to take that kind of design work and convert it into something very textual. Like you could, I mean, I mentioned it in the tutorial, but it would be easy to like apply, different kinds of, you could easily take that texture, paint it on wood, and then apply some faux depth to it to create like wood carvings or something. Probably don't need to mess with his actual. These are going to be painted a different color, the wrist part. Normally they put tape, like a colored either red or blue tape on the wrist of the glove to keep it strapped so that they don't accidentally become unstrapped during the fight. So we'll do something like that. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm going to put well, actually, what do they do now? Do they do the Venom logo on the gloves, or do they do the UFC logo? I think they do the UFC logo. UFC glove. I'm going to look it up. Well, it's 2024. Yeah, they put the they have the UFC logo on them. Yeah, because here they are wearing the Venom shorts. Okay. And so this is current stuff. They put the UFC logo on the outside. All right. So we've got to create this like synthetic, well, I guess it's real leather, but it tends to be very dark. So get some gray. Then we're going to need a lighter gray. We want to stick with something very neutral here because this leather colored, like, why would you expect leather to turn more bluish? Okay. The same concept applies to steel, right? Black leather tends to look bluish because it's reflecting the sky when it's like really shiny leather. Except in this case, we don't have a sky, right? This is indoors. So we're going to stick more with grays here. We can use some of this reflection from the lights up here. Really, it's going to be more like the light's really more coming from this way, directly overhead. So more of the light's going to be focused at the top here. And a lot of it will be quite black. The mini dunk. Hello. Thanks for the tier 1. Appreciate it. How you doing? So what we're focusing on here is really not so much the I'll zoom in a little so you guys can see a little better. It's going to be quite dark, but we're almost entirely focused on just specular reflections here. Well, thanks. Welcome over from the YouTube channel. Appreciate you watching. Glad it's helpful. Well, I hope it's helpful at least. I guess if you keep watching, it's a little helpful. Okay, so we want really dark material here. Right, and then we're just going to keep building the light. And we'll smooth this out, but the gloves get quite shiny. Right, they basically are going to go almost all the way to white. All right, something like that. That's not even close to bright enough. We got to push it way more than that. But we can blend a little in between. So as we build up the light, right, this does have somewhat of a curve to it. Right, so we can take and create a little bit of that curve. You can see just how this is going to be our shiniest point right here. You can see in the reflection of the lights while the paint is wet, just how bright that's going to become. We want the same thing. So we've got to simulate that effect of this like shiny material. I will say that this can be tough just because of how short of a kind of reflection you get. Or how tight of a gradient that you'll have. right? So things like here, you're going to get these really shiny spots right next to dark parts where the fold is. These little wrinkles in the glove. Something like that so far. Then we can come back with some black in like a sort of glaze and take parts down where we want. Because not all of it's going to be the shiniest part, you know? I want to make sure to give some shape to the fingers here. All right. So that's kind of the start of where you want it to be, right? And it looks, I mean, it's black, but it still looks a little flat at the moment. We've got to like really push the light up to maximum brightness if you want to really obtain that like super shiny effect. And when we put that brighter color, well, you'll see, but when we put this even brighter white on there, it's going to make everything else look darker by comparison. So here I can do an even lighter gray in a smaller amount, and that's going to make all of this other gray look darker by contrast. And you can see just how bright that white looks, or that light gray. It's not even pure white yet. So this is how you get that really shiny patent leather look. And it's really all about the that kind of percentage of dark and light. So it's like 80% dark and a little bit of really bright spots. And those transitions from light to dark have to be pretty short. Did I airbrush while doing skin? No, I did not. Would you approach for like black latex, right? Latex is even more so. Latex is like even shinier than this, so you're gonna have like straight up sharp lines in the in latex. Like latex will, you could have like a pure translation from like a hard line separating light from dark. I did latex on the piece I did for Neko Galaxy. It's the two girls. If you go look at the two girls, her shorts, the girl with the magenta hair, a white girl, is wearing latex short and top. So see just how much that white is made everything else look darker. Yeah, and you can see in that figure like how the light is like hard lines. They're not really gradients. Okay. So here I just want to get a couple spots of really bright, and then I can kind of start to blend this together. Right, you get those few really white spots. Yeah, my the reference material I had to look up to paint that was interesting. I'm sure to look up some girls in cat suits. Okay. You can do a little bounce of the arena light off of this. Not a whole lot. I want to just give some shape to the bottom of the fingers. I'll tone this down, but I want to just get something here so that this is more readable. So using a very dark gray just to create a subtle difference in the two. In this light from below, can start to give a little shape down here. Okay, all right, let's tone some things down a little bit. Right, we want just that uppermost part to be kind of the white. So some glazes can help knock things down a little bit. Maybe we'll introduce a little shine. Slightly more in the middle of the glove, which doesn't make sense from like a lighting perspective of the arena, because the lights in the arena would be like directly above. But I can fudge it a little bit just to make it more interesting. Just to push a little light forward on his glove. Let those glazes dry. So once you've kind of got like the overall shape to it, it's really like the contrast right and the shape right. Then it really just comes down to making these small adjustments and rounding things over where you need them. Right, it's a natural material. Well, it could be a synthetic material, but I'm pretty sure they use real leather on their gloves, so. All right, so here I'm just going to push the light just a little bit more, give it a little shine right there just for interest. Right, make that part a little shiny. All right, let's grab a different black than carbon black. Carbon black from Chimera is a little flat. And that because it's a little flat, it tends to look slightly more gray. If we glaze with a Vallejo black, that's just ever so slightly more satin. We can get what looks like an even darker black. This is the thing I find interesting that people say, like, oh, you got to get Musso black, like these like black 2.0s and 3.0s that are like these ultra matte blacks. It's like a lot of the times these ultra matte ones tend to not look, actually in hand at least, I guess in photo maybe, but in hand will often look not as black as you can get with just using like a black paint or like a more satin black paint. Now I'm not going to use gloss. I could use like a satin varnish to make it the whole glove a little more satin, like real towards what like the actual material is. What am I making? I'm painting this bust of this UFC fighter. And right now, we are working on simulating a very shiny black leather material. Okay, so because my angle is actually slightly more forward this way, I'm going to push a little more light onto the finger here. This is like my main viewing angle is slightly more, not like straight onto the glove like this, slightly more like this. So I can push a little bit more light onto this edge. Well, thanks. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name. That's too many SZs and Cs in a row. Are you Polish by chance? What gave it away? Thanks, Zem or I her X 0. Hello. I'm just gonna say wreck. Okay, here. Let's look at this part. Let's look at this little part of the glove. I'm gonna zoom way in. So here, this is an area. I'm gonna grab a lighter gray for this. So this part of the glove, right on this line, is where the stitching might be, right? So this could be where it's stitched together. So I can use little dots to create that like kind of wavy effect. That this could be where the glove is like stitched together. And then come back with the black and create that dark outline where it folds back in on itself, right? So here I push the light a little more. Maybe here I can push the light just a little bit. I'm just trying to create an interesting shape and kind of reflection to give that look of that leather. Okay. Now we're going to take just a touch of white. Really put like a few spots. A just super bright shine. On that kind of edge where the padding is, to give that sort of effect we're going for. Does this make sense, you guys? Right? Does it look like a shiny kind of leather material now? How much time you need to spend to make something like this? We've been painting this guy for 3 parts, so I think about 9 hours so far. Walking harder, hello. I am told that I'm fast though. So other people's time may vary. I'm gonna put like a little dot here just because, maybe there's another light over here. It is a big arena. There could be other lights that could create little reflections. So I think it's important to remember, just because I do it really fast does not mean everyone, is going to paint as quick as me. Okay, so here I'm going to take just a little bit of black. I'm going to thin it down. I'm just going to glaze over this area. So this is kind of unify all of this, darken it back down just a touch, and then we can come back in and reapply a few lights where we need it to be, just to really push the contrast on some of this stuff. So general lighting of like in the inside of a ring tends to just be like a lot of just, I mean, you're talking about like, I don't know, 100 spotlights like on them or whatever it is. It's a lot of lights. So it's kind of better to do like a general lighting. I don't even think a camera flash would do anything in an arena like that with how much light there is. The mini dunk. Is the size of the highlight dictated more by the material or the light? Both. But what I will say is shinier objects, right? The shinier an object, the typically the smaller and brighter the highlight will be. So if you think about like a mirror, the highlight on a mirror is going to just reflect exactly what it's kind of seeing. Right? The sun is not very big in the sky. It's a pretty small point. Like if you hold, I'm not recommending going out but the sun is basically the same size as the moon is basically the same size as the sun in the sky. So you can do this with the moon. Go out and then like hold your hand at arm's length and stick your thumb over the moon. And it's like you can cover the moon with your thumb at arm's length. So it's honestly, it's pretty small. So for that reason, like on something like armor, the sun reflection might actually be pretty small. Now it can bloom outwards depending on the kind of exposure that you're going for in your image. Right, because your eyes adjust. So similar to a camera, we can paint the image at like different exposures. So we could have the sun kind of blooming outwards, creating a bigger highlight. But yes, it really depends on, it's both the material and the size of the light. How many figures have you already made of hundreds? Probably going on 1,000 at this point. Yeah, it can be a little larger. You still want it pretty concentrated just because of the nature of the material, so that final highlight is going to be a little bit smaller. But depending on how, much bloom we want, we can exaggerate it a little bit. Okay, so something like that for the black leather of the glove, and then we can come in and go around and do some of the I think that might be supposed to be the tape on the outside of the glove. I'm not sure here. think that might be the tape poking through. You'll see it more on this guy, but up here, right, on the inside of the hand, these kind of gloves, they don't cover the whole hand, and they have like athletic tape wrapped around there. They have hand wraps, and then they put the glove on top of that. So we'll see the hand wraps underneath the glove, and there might be, depending on the sculpt, I'll have to take a closer look. I don't think it's supposed to be but sometimes you'll see the hand wrap kind of poking through the fingers or out underneath the glove by the fingers. So here, right, I've got this kind of dark line. If I want to join these together, just like in metallic, I can kind of create this highlight that runs in this valley. And that can serve to sort of join these elements together and create a more sort of cohesive surface. Okay. All right. So that's kind of the idea with the glove. It's a very shiny material. I'll go around and I'll do a few small adjustments around the bottom of the fingers and things. I think maybe it is supposed to be the tape poking out there. But, yeah. Okay. Some of this could probably, well, I'll make some small adjustment here. Okay, just continue to glaze to blend that out. All about making, once you've got it kind of right and you're happy with the overall look, then it's creating these little adjustments to affect the light how we want and get it to be as smooth of a finish as we want. We want a smooth finish here. Remember that high contrast, right? This very high contrast between this and this, that's what gives it that shiny leather effect. Would the gloves pick up some color variations from the arena lights and environment, etc., or am I overthinking it? No, they're not really, not on like a black material. Maybe, like if there were blue lights, like if there was a blue light right here, for sure it would reflect blue lights. But the the arena is basically black. Right? Because there's no lights on in the arena, the ring is white and the lights are white. Right? So now occasionally you'll see the guys like walk as they're walking out of the arena. There's like some blue lights or red lights along like the outside of the ring. And that in that case, yeah, for sure. Like if he was walking over that, then a bunch of blue light would show up on the bottom of the fingers, on the bottom of the glove. But the ring is pretty much just gray. And then the arena is black because there's yeah, exactly. You'll see when we go to do the belt, like that most of the front of the belt will be black, and then only areas where it's like reflecting his arm or reflecting the arena lights will it have color to it. Okay, so we can kind of start to do the same thing with the belt. Let me see if I have a reference photo of the belt. And it's kind of the same sort of material. Trying to find like a really nice picture of the leather. Let's see. FC belt. And it's pretty flat. Not a whole lot going on there. In terms of texture, yeah. Okay, interesting. Cool. So it's basically the same idea here. It's just not as the leather is not as shiny as so we can do a bit of a softer light here. So the light's going to run across the belt like this. Right, we're going to get a reflection of the lights that kind of run over his shoulder. So it starts to turn kind of gray. And we can kind of wet blend that while it's still wet to sort of smooth that transition. And then same thing here. And then this is going to get even brighter. till eventually it gets to like a nice lighter gray. Yeah, they don't look super shiny. So maybe something like that. We'll leave most of this just pretty dark black. Then we can come back in and do kind of some of the details and stuff of the belt, do some edge lines and stuff. No, I just shake the bottle. I don't have a vortex mixer or anything. Yeah, I gotta get my exercise in. Okay, so something like that, and then we can push the light just a touch more, and maybe like we'll get even slightly brighter. Right, so maybe this is like as bright as we want to go on this part of the belt. We'll create like a line right there. Hi, Jonas. Kind of soften that out. Josu Celis with the Prime. Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate the support. How you doing? Okay, so something along those lines, and then we can, yeah, we'll soften that. But that might be as bright as I want to go here, and then as I do these little like details on the belt, like the embossing, I can make little adjustments and highlights. Right, like the edge of the belt will have highlights on it because this is the direction that faces, right? Faces the viewer, so the edge of the belt would be have more lights on it. And then a few parts will have like really bright shines on it. I forgot to base coat behind in the back. So let me do that real quick. I did not do any of these parts, which you guys probably can't see that well, but I can. I can see that I did not get these inside pieces all the way black. Another reason not to have painted the fingers yet. Probably no one will ever notice that, but it would have bothered me. So I'll just fix it now. Okay. So I will continue with some glazing to kind of extend these blends a little bit, soften the shape some more. Notice when I'm doing this kind of glazing that I'm always starting. If I'm doing light, I'm starting in the shadow and I'm pulling towards the light and then lifting the brush. Okay. We'll have that same reflection on the other side. So this reflection will then show up again over here. But I'll probably do the back separate just because don't need to watch me do the same thing twice, I guess. Okay, and then if you're glazing shadow, right? So if I'm glazing the black, I'm starting in the light and I'm pulling towards the shadow. Most of this will be just completely dark. There's some spots where I can do some edge highlighting and stuff. Here I want to define that edge, and then I'll paint that edge even brighter up towards the light up here. Right, I'm doing the same thing. The glaze of this lighter gray. I can repeat and do the same to push the light just a bit more. And then I'm going to just do some little stippling. And it's leather. It's not a this is not a perfectly smooth leather. Might be some little micro texture in it. Actually, do I have something? Yeah, I do. Good night. Let me see. I do have some leather. So this is basically like the same kind of leather that you would see on a UFC belt. And you can see that it's like completely black like this. But then in the light, you start to see a little bit of this texture, right? Because it's essentially skin. Right? You get these tiny little, what look like dots, but really you're seeing the cracks. So essentially, I'm going to zoom way out for you guys. Right? So this is the effect we're going for on the shoulder of the belt. Right? It's a pretty, depending on how hard that curve is, could change how, right? Could change how wide that beam is. If it's like this, right, it's a much more gradual curve. If it's like this, it's a much more shallow. So I'm just going to go kind of over it with the black. Now, you could call this a glaze, you could call it a filter. It is a glaze. I'm just not using it specifically to blend here. Just using it to tint and kind of lower the overall value. Okay, darken everything just a touch. Okay, once that dries, then I can come back in and start to do the little dots to create that really small leather effect. Zoom out. Okay. So starting right here, right, we're just gonna gently create some dots. And then as we move up in the light, okay. You guys see that? Purple Alice. I would suggest, because I can't remember exactly what color I used because I don't really keep recipes. And if you want to see what paints I used, I would suggest going and watching the YouTube replays of painting the skin. Part 1, 2, and 3 are all on YouTube. Josusilas and Snappy Robot. Thanks for following. Well, welcome. Glad to hear you just got into mini painting, Snappy Robot. Hope you have a fun time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will attempt to answer them to the best of my ability. Is that a stippling paint style you're using? Yes, this is stippling. So I'm doing little dots to try and emulate the slight, the very small kind of skin texture that you will see on this sort of leather. You typically only see it in like really bright parts of the light. And we do want it pretty subtle. But yes, it does appear like in really shiny parts of leather. Or this kind of leather. Like polished leather is a little different, but this is not a polished leather. Patent leather, I don't know. But yeah, this is exactly what that is. This is stippling. So just, and you can, I mean, if you're fast, you can, you know, you a button masher? Can you, how good are you at mashing in Mario Party? Can I get a tattoo gun that's like just for stippling with a paintbrush? Just like. Yeah, I used photo reference and I just showed, I mean, I have as far as I can tell, the belt, the kind of leather they use for the belt is the same sort of leather as like my iPad case, right? So it's like this, and it looks black when you look at it like this, but when you turn it like this, you can see the little dots and pores and stuff, right? So that's kind of the effect we're going for, is this sort of leather texture. A different one than what we were doing for the gloves. The gloves are a much smoother leather. So you can see, yeah, we start to put the little dots in. And then at any point, if we want, we can come back with some of the black and a glaze. And again, kind of like blend it out just a touch. Smooth, unify it. And then we can put more on top. So we can continue to build this texture over top of itself. Right, but he's yeah. So right in the center of this line is where we're gonna want just the brightest dots. And the nice thing here is that I'm not super concerned about all the dots. I actually don't want all the dots to be the same, like a perfect size and spacing. I want them all to be slightly different. And then as I move away from the light, I can decrease the spacing or increase the spacing of the dots. We'll have fewer little spots that really catch the light. And then more density where the light is brightest. Okay, something like that, right? See, it kind of achieves that sort of leather effect, or that slight cracks in the skin. And we can, the more dots we do, the smoother it's going to look, right? So get to practicing your Mario Party button mashing skills. That's effectively what I'm trying to do here. Is just like tap 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 tap. See, lots of dots. You guys tired of watching me paint dots yet? Right, and then what happens when we zoom out, right? Get a nice little band of light right there. Can barely even see the texture at a distance, but up close, you can get to see some of the, I mean, when you absurdly zoom in. I'm going to do one more layer of this lighter gray. My inner DC. Oh, I don't know about that. I feel like Dave stippling might be more precise than mine. I'm trying to be random. Dave does like crazy, like precision dots. I feel like he does every stipple in like the exact spot he wants. I want it to be kind of noisy. There we go. Now we got that shine. Ravana SK, hello. And then once we, now we can come back and we can do like the dark lining and place little edge lights on the leather. Can also try and do maybe a stitching. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to take a quick break, just a couple minutes, and then when we come back, I will can work on the belt a little more. Maybe we will start on the non-metallic of the belt, just because I could paint the other glove, but you guys already saw me paint the glove, so trying to not spend too much time doing the same thing. Little piece of UFC lore for you guys. If you are the challenger, right? So if we want to paint him as the challenger to the title and winning the title from being challenger, they always have blue tape on their gloves. They're always the blue corner. The red corner is the champion. Are you looking at old pictures of figures? Oh, on the, okay. That's right, he is on that. So they put tape on the gloves. Then these signify their corner. And red is for or blue is for the challenger. So if the story we're trying to tell is that he's winning the belt for the first time and not defending the belt, he will have blue tape. Which means we also will not paint his shorts the black and gold of a champion. We'll paint his shorts, whatever, I'll have to look at what color shorts Justin normally wears, but another reason to do this is I will be able to paint the reflection of the blue tape in the belt. So just like the leather, the blue is the tape is a little shiny. So we'll put a light reflection for the tape, right? Just sketch it in, and we can blend it out. Am I ready? Not quite. I've got to prepare some figures for classes and things, but I'm close. Hi, Dave. So we create the rounded shape to the tape. Then on the belt, now we've got all right, let's go back to the belt. How do I manage my sitting pain? I make sure I get up every so often and move around. I try not to stay too stationary for too long. Right, so I can do some lining here. To want to create this embossing of these elements. Right. Okay. So something like that. Now, using the lighter gray, I now have to do the same, but with creating these edges. No, we'll do some edge lights, particularly on the side that faces towards the main view, right? So this inside edge is going to get a bright light. And that creates that bit of that raised surface embossed effect. And we'll do the same on the, I don't know, whatever these little detail elements. Yeah, leather danger edges. Right, so these get little lines. Okay. We can do a little bit on the other side. This side is not going to be as much. We can do just a touch to give it some separation from the other side. Right? It could be a really small one, just like that. And then we're going to take even brighter here. And where that light really shines, I'm going to really push this edge. So that when you look at it from this direction, you get that bright shine to that edge. Same with right here. Okay, we want to think about where these shines are going to show up. So make sure that we're following anywhere where this same angle is. So like here, here. I might have to go back and adjust some of these and smooth them out. Hi, Richard. Hi, Daniel Traino. Daniel Trainor. Hello. Okay. Can you give me one advice for good color theory? One advice for just one? Sure. Keep it simple, okay? That would be my one piece of advice. If you want colors to harmonize well, keep it simple. It's much easier to harmonize a limited palette than it is to try and like overdo it. The more colors you introduce, the more opportunities you have to create like clashing elements and things. So I would say, you know, I think of color theory like music, right? Notes can harmonize, colors can harmonize. It's a lot harder to harmonize a bunch of notes than it is a few notes. Okay, so how many hours do you paint a day? I mean, that depends, but I would say on average, eight to 10. Say about somewhere around there. 24/7. No, that's not true. I would say about 8 to 10. Depends on, what's coming up. If I'm getting ready for a show. No, I prefer not to, thanks. I'll avoid any, I've got my caffeine. I don't need any other stimulants. Okay, now, do we want to try and do the beading on the outside? So we can come back to our kind of reference here and see that if they're stitching on the outside, right, you get this sort of the leather stitch. Do we want to do the leather stitch? Shall we? I'm going to need glasses to do this. All right. So what we have to do is we have to paint a dark line that separates the edge. can, if we want, we can do the stitching on this part too. Okay, so we create another dark line. All right, something like that, see? And then on the inside of that dark line, we're going to create, we might have to go a little brighter. Let's go just a touch brighter. All right, we're going to create a little dot. Okay, and then the really bright part, I use an even lighter gray. Okay, so we create the leather, the stitch, right? Makes sense. Super easy. And then we have to do that all the way around. Yeah, easy. What? Come on. What's the problem? I believe in you. No, this is the Hera brush. It's pretty nice. I don't know, Richard. I haven't been asked yet. Son of Zeus. Hello. Same deal on the other side. So create the dark line that separates, and then we'll come back and do the dots. And this time the dots go again on the outside. And it's okay if it overlaps with the dark line a little bit, because that's, right, the stitching is down in there. We're not actually painting the stitch itself. We're painting the leather, getting like kind of ripply in the like the slight bending of the leather. Not highlighting the thread itself. That makes sense? Maybe it makes sense. I don't know. Yes, I do. AC. Normally, I do tend to work on the entire figure, but for instructional purposes, like trying to teach, it's much more digestible for you guys if I work on one element at a time instead of jumping around. I did, yeah. On Shiv, I did kind of the same sort of effect with the denim stitch. But it's basically just, using dots. And if I need to reinforce certain areas, I can. Right? Like here, maybe the shadows are a little thicker, and here we want to create this kind of like rounded over shape to the outside of the stitch. Right, like asking about working on one thing at a time. If obvious, like the arms are not done yet, the back is not done yet. So I kind of am moving around to show like the interesting parts, and then I'll go back to finish those elements. Okay, and can do a couple dots on the inside here just to give, again, some more shape to these. Right. Okay. All right, looking like leather. A nice shiny leather belt. If I want, I can grab just a dab here and glaze. Just a bit of this light gray on top just to push the light a little bit more. Thanks, Richard. One thing I struggle with is having enough interest in dark or shadowed areas of a paint job. Having there be enough rendered texture or detail to have it look good, convincing, but not be too busy or distracting. I mean, that's an interesting one because, right, like I'm not going to do a whole lot with this part down here. Right, this is mostly going to be black. I let the interesting parts be the parts that I want you to focus on. Okay, so really, like, not a whole lot is going to get done to this down here. This will mostly just stay black. I'll do this, like some small lining and things, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of texture and stuff into that. I'll let the texture stay up here where I want to draw your attention. This highlight right next to his face is like intentionally placed to be like, hey, I mean, other than, yes, there would be a highlight there naturally, but like where I decide to place it on the shoulder can help draw more attention to the face or not. And if I want to enhance that effect, I can by maybe, right, let's take a look and say like, okay, this is the angle that I want you to look at him at, right? And that shine starts to come down a little or get kind of close to the top of his shoulder. So if I want, I could actually darken the top here some. This is why evaluation is important, right? So by darkening some of the very top of his shoulder a little, I can help silhouette the top of that belt and push that light a little more forward and further draw your attention to the face. So here, maybe I push just a bit more light on the front of the belt. And those little subtle changes can affect where I want you to look. Yeah, intention and confidence has a lot to do with it. Okay, let's play with the belt, like the belt itself, the gold part. I have a picture. Okay. So, grab a sip. That was a lot. What else? Some yellow. I'm going to need oranges and things, but we'll get back to that. Probably need some more black. All right, I don't need much else other than that. At some point I will add some orange, but to get started, this is fine. So we make a kind of dark brownish sort of color here. Then we're going to start to, I'm going to grab a new Let's go with a new brush. Just jump right in. A little more. A bit more light. Okay. So most of this will be like really shiny. But the edges here, right, this is all stuff facing towards the viewer. So I want all this to be quite bright. Eventually right now we're just sketching areas of light and areas of bright reflections and areas of shadow reflections. So like I said, most of the front tends to stay kind of black. And then these areas that face upwards and towards the viewer start to get more light on them. So this is going to be a lot of edge highlighting. I don't mind, Richard. I've done it before. I've given feedback on pieces that I've judged before. If anything, it tends to maybe make me be more critical of it when I see it later. All right. So here, when we do these edges, I need to make sure I get like the whole top edge. Because the front face is going to be black. So we need these not just to edge highlight, right? Like I'm not just trying to do the edge. And I know it can be kind of hard to see, so I'll turn it like this so you guys can see. I'm doing the like top face. Hi, Reed. Happy birthday. Thanks for watching. How old is Reed? We need more young mini painters. Yeah, we can't just have Jonas. He's going to be an adult soon. All right, see, so we're focusing on like the actual side planes of the letters of these shapes. Right, and by doing this, we'll create a really strong contrast between the black like front face of the belt and the in these side planes. So even on these other elements, right? It's like I'm not just painting this corner, I'm trying to paint the whole side. You might have to change the angle of your brush to do this kind of effect. We will create some small reflections in here, but they will be very subtle. Right, like at the top here, maybe I go not pure black, but very, very dark, to the point where you guys probably can't see it on camera. Yeah, we paint the whole plane. So then we can then edge highlight and create a real sharp line on just the edge. And that'll really make certain elements stand out. We can intentionally make some lines a little thicker than they would be to give a kind of slightly more natural roundover to some of these shapes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to... It's so dark. Here, I'll try and get some more of these edges in here. I can barely see it too. So, it's not just you guys. Right, but if I paint the whole side of that plane, now it's going to give it some depth. Let's see. Here we want to increase the light on these. Like that. Like so. These kind of pieces I can just quickly throw some like on here. Maybe I just do that real quick just to give it some shape, right? Then I can come back and change this up later. Okay. There's a whole another part of the belt, but let's get some more light thrown on there. So here, these are going to be my main. This is like where the main light's going to go. Right, so my main reflection point's going to be there. You will get some on the top, but not necessarily the very top, right? It might only be on like the edge. So we can create like further separation in these two planes. I think it will be brighter than that, so I'm going to make another intermediate tone here. Just grab a bunch of this and this yellow. So we can make like a nice warm intermediate tone. Something like such. Okay, the thing to remember when doing the shape like this is, okay, what is this angle, right? Is it the same? It's basically the same as that. So then this gets a very similar reflection to that up there. This one is closer to these, right? But maybe down here is more similar to up here. And I can create a little bit of noise inside them. Right, so this kind of deal is all about, you know, just really creating these edge highlights. Okay, so that's going to get shinier. Okay, do something like that. Something like this. And then inside of that, if I want, I can go, I think I want the front face to be a little more pale than saturated. Now in here I can create little shapes inside the metallic, and I can glaze back over this, but this will create this kind of random noise that you might see in a sort of metallic effect like this. It's I don't know what the name. The yellow is called toxic yellow or something. It's close to like an ice yellow. It's yeah, toxic yellow. It's like a cold, slightly greenish yellow, and then the gold. This is gold 79 from Robert Carlson, and black. That's all I'm using. But yeah, it's like a cold greenish yellow. Okay, so here I can create a little shape. Like such. And I think my brightest highlight is going to end up being like right here. I'll get more on like corners and things, but in the center of this kind of curve, I think is where I want the brightest part. I can actually go even more white than this, so I think I want this whole plane to basically be light yellow. So we really want to create that contrast, right? Yeah, gold 79 is a great tone. I think it is for sure the star of the Robert Carlson set. Okay, and then with a bit more white, right now I can make a super light yellow. Really exaggerate that highlight. We start to get that feeling of that shine, even if it's, you know, just the beginning of the non-metallic, we already start to sort of achieve that sensation of the metallic effect. Right, that means the same goes there. And anything that follows that same angle is going to have that bright reflection. So it's like the top of these little shapes, and I'll clean these up more later, but we'll just get the kind of rough look to them, right? So those will get a really bright line. The like corners of the letters, right? Those will all get like bright marks. Here, like that. All right, so just focus on the general shapes first. Focus on the areas where you know that the light's going to go, and then you can create all the little nuanced intermediate tones, you know? Okay. Yeah. I worry this part's not very interesting just because it's so much of just like paint this edge, paint that edge. Right? Like geometry. Right. Well, anyways, you get shapes like that. Then you have these dark lines. Then we will create more warm reflections on the bottom. So here I'm not trying to be perfect with some of these shapes because I'm going to adjust them later, but I want that slight warped nature to some of these reflections, right? It creates a sense of like bend and curve to the shape. And then here at the bottom, this is going to like reflect the glove, but down here I'll have more blue in it. So let's actually take just a touch of the blue and make a new mixture over here. And we're going to have a very greenish color. Okay, not blue. I don't want to use actual blue by the tape. It's going to be very green. Okay, the gold is going to reflect out, is going to remove any color, right? Any like that pure blue color, you end up with a much more greenish tone, and I might need a more pure yellow to get that kind of green I'm looking for. And then also probably an orange to get the reflection of the skin, because the skin is kind of yellowish or red, the skin is more reddish, and then reflecting in the gold is going to make it is going to pull some of that red out and make it reflect more orange. Okay, so down here by the arm, all of this will be much more orange where it's reflecting his arm. I'm just going to kind of sketch it in. I'll worry about refining it later. Even here, like on the side, it'll reflect his arm kind of over here. Okay, so something like that. We can make it a little more goldish where it gets a little brighter. Because it's got to reflect the highlight of his skin also. We're just going for an effect right now. We're not trying to be perfect. Just a general idea of where that arm reflection would go, right? So now you can see it kind of feels like his arm's reflecting in the gold. And if I need to tone down the orange, I can glaze over top of it with the yellow gold to adjust the color. And then we got to get the blue tape. So some blue, some of this yellow, maybe a little more yellow. Right, to get a green. Then just a touch of that. Well, that was way too much. Okay, get a nice green. Then we got to get that reflection of the tape in the belt. Like that. And we'll refine this and stuff as we go. But I want to make sure it's the same width. Okay, so maybe here, but if it comes all the way up there, there'll be a small black separator and then more of that orange. All right, so that means his arm also has to go up that high. Right, something like that, right? And we'll add stuff to it, but then when we paint these upper lights on top of the letters, we start to do the edge lining around those letters, that'll start to show up more. And we know that around the anywhere where there's not green, that's got to be basically black because we're reflecting the glove again. All right. Well, anyways, that's like a rough sketch of kind of like the placement, right? And then lots more edge highlighting to do. But yeah, this very black background, and I might come in actually with some stippling in some certain areas of like the very back of the belt. I might do some stippling here too to give a kind of engraved texture. Like, let's just goof around with it real quick just to show you. So like this back field, right? All the way back here. I might stipple that, something like that, to give a look of like there's a texture, like an engraving texture to that back field. I could stipple or do some other effect, you know. That way you have this like very chrome style texture on the flat surfaces of the letters, and then a more engraved texture in the background, like a hammered kind of look to it. As I start to, you know, highlight those letters more and clean all this stuff up, it'll start to look way more shiny. Any questions about this stuff? Am I talking to myself? I saw Mini Mancer. No, that's fine. I don't mind. I'm just curious. Right, but you get the general idea. This is here, I'll link the that's the like image I'm going off of to kind of give you an idea of like what the belt kind of looks like. You can really see just how black of a field the letters are, and then you get these very chromy. Actually, in this one, you can see the reflection of You can see the reflection of what looks like, I think, are the ropes in the letters, which is crazy. Yeah, you sure can. Except for in UFC, it's a cage, so that doesn't quite work. But yeah. Yeah, it's very chrome, and this belt has a more like more engraving kind of thing going on in the background. But you can see very slight like variations in the edge, where you might have not like a perfect edge highlight. Maybe it'll be, you know, some kind of more dots to create a sort of irregular edge. I think the rope reflections are nutty. Probably not going to try and do something like that. Actually, that is an interesting idea, though, now that I think about it. I think let me see, does the old UFC belt, the current one does too. Oh, this is interesting. Maybe I do want to do the cage design in the background. Maybe I will play around with something like that. Later, like instead of just an engraved surface, do a horse. Where's Topulus to say do a horse reflection in the background? Yeah, maybe I'll goof around with the idea of like the cage reflecting in the background, but all right. Well, anyways, this is kind of where we made it today. You can sort of see where the belt's going and see the glove. Also, my reference material of the that I sent you guys is a very strong. He's got quite a bit of reflection on the bottom of his gloves, so I might push a little light onto the lower part of the glove. And like on the lower fingers, specifically to help separate it from the lower part of the belt here, but a little bounce light. But yeah. Then I've got to paint the UFC logo on the glove and everything. But